Hey guys, a few years back, I talked about the whole Final Destination franchise. At that time, there had been rumors about another movie in the series coming out or a reboot, but nothing really seemed to be happening. But this year, we have a new entry, Final Destination Bloodlines, the sixth movie in the series, and this comes out on May 15th. Quick thanks to Warner Brothers Canada and Vancouver Horror Show because I was able to see this film a little bit ahead of time. And so I'm now able to share my thoughts on it with you guys. Just before we get into the film, I'm not going to be sharing any spoilers. I was able to go into this film without seeing a trailer, just some of the promo posters, and I think that made all the moving parts of this movie work so well for me as a viewer. So I hope that you can have the same experience that I had. I noticed with Longlegs that a lot of people who saw too much of the trailers for that film were really disappointed in the movie when they saw it. And I think that this is because trailers show too much of the film, too much of the plot. They show all the best scenes. They reveal too much, and they just leave nothing for you to see and discover in the cinema. I have this whole personal hatred for recent trailers, which spoil the entire film. But that is a story for another time. But I saw the film on an IMAX screen and without seeing a trailer. And I highly recommend if you can go see it in IMAX. It's really fun to see it that way as well. Yeah, as I mentioned above, I did a whole video on this movie series in total. So I will link that below if you want a complete recap or any of that kind of thing. I won't go into that too much here, but the Final Destination movies began in 2000 with the titular film, which was based on a story that Jeffrey Riddick wrote as a spec script for The X-Files, and that he later worked up into a feature script. There were 5 films in total, each with elaborate death scenes that resemble kind of a Rube Goldberg machine, and they're amazing set pieces that feature, rather than a masked slasher killer, death itself. Invisible but omnipresent and unstoppable. In Final Destination 5, which came out in 2011, Final Destination 5 came out in 2011. So there's been a big gap since the last entry in the franchise. These films always open with a huge accident or tragic event which one character sees unfold in a premonition, and then because of this they're able to avoid the event, saving some of their friends in the process. Death then comes for them all, one by one, in the order that they were meant to die in, while the survivors try to avoid being sliced, diced, or squashed in various gruesome ways. This film follows that basic idea, but refreshes the formula a little bit by having a college-age girl have a premonitory memory of a tragic event that occurred in the 50s, maybe the early 60s, but I think it's meant to be the 50s, and finding out that death is coming for the survivors of that event and their descendants in order. I was ready to take this film with a pinch of salt. Franchise-style films are saturating the market, and I'm honestly pretty fatigued by them. I like an original idea, but horror franchises have been around for literally generations at this point, so they get a little bit more of a free pass with me. I enjoy them on their own terms, a lot of the time as B-movies, as long as I'm entertained, basically. I was also aware that this film might be a cheap cash-in or just a rehash of old ideas or pandering to fans with overly obvious callbacks to the old films. That happens so much lately. That kind of thing's really cringy and hard to ignore. However, I was pleasantly surprised. This film is a really good horror film on its own, and it's also clearly made by people who love the other films in the series and wanted to make a solid Final Destination film. They understood the assignment, basically. First of all, the opening sequence is so entertaining. That scene in these films are always kind of huge and bold, and this film really leans into that. A couple go on a date to a restaurant opening night at the top of a tower. We learn that the building was finished ahead of time, and the lift up to the top is tiny. We know in our gut that this date is not going to go well, and that tension does not let up as all the pieces and the people in this scene are sort of brought together into this thing that happens. It's excellent filmmaking. Watch out for that kid with the penny. The deaths here are so well paid off and intense, and the older era with its sort of crinolines and pearls and men in suits just adds to the sort of naivety, the lost innocence of the people involved. It's a great stylistic choice to kind of mix things up. The twist of having this scene in the past makes you wonder as well, like, how is this going to fit? If it's the past, not a premonition, how does this work? From here, we see Stephanie wake up screaming. She's having a recurring nightmare, but she recognizes the name of one of the people in the dream. She heads home, and we learn that our story here is about a family and not a group of teens played by 30-year-olds, basically. This is a smart twist as well. One thing that this really allows for is showing a little of the family grieving. There's not too much of this. It's not kind of that kind of a movie, but by having family members rather than classmates, we have people saddened and shocked by the deaths of people close to them who they care about, their complex relationships and feelings, which means that the story is able to have a little more emotional depth and sort of bonds that we care about. When someone is killed, we care a little bit. And by having those touches of sadness, the humor in this film works so well in contrast. The relief of laughing at a one-liner or that sort of funny family bickering or a subverted expectation is so key to a film that runs on tension. And having those little emotional moments really allows the audience to have that. It makes the tricks death plays or the tricks the director is playing on us, the little misdirects and things, land so much harder. This film has two directors, which is really interesting. It's directed by Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, a pair of best friends who shot it in Vancouver, which is also where almost all of the films in the series were shot. So I really liked that choice too. As a team, these two did the Kim Possible movie and an indie film called Freaks. Both of them were on The Lot, though I never watched that, so I can't really comment, but some of you may know them from there. At the screening, they were there and they said that co-directing really works for them because they work well together to come up with more creative solutions at all phases of filmmaking. And I thought this was really smart. Filmmaking is essentially collaborative, and not being alone in that directing chair can be a really smart move. Too often we hear about directors who are all about their egos and sort of power trips and being the king of the set. And that's not always in service of the audience or the film or even just caring about the people around them, honestly. They also told a story about pitching the idea, sort of auditioning to direct the film, so to speak, and how they set up their own faked, elaborate deaths in the pitch meeting over Zoom, which they felt really won them the film. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what these two do next as a team and sort of keep an eye out for them. Speaking of cast and crew, this is the final film that Tony Todd made before his death, and it's quite a beautiful end to a career. He returns to play the enigmatic, dark morgue worker that he's played in previous films, a man who the characters find when they need some answers. He does this well with his darkly, sort of amused, sinister performance, but just as his character is about to leave the scene, he stops to say a few poignant words about death and life being precious. It's such a well-timed and real moment that really works well in the film. And according to the directors, these little final words are the actor's own improvised dialogue. Of course, the most important thing in these films is the set pieces, the big deaths. We don't know when or how they're going to come, but come they will. This film is so good at keeping you on tenterhooks. Every now and then we get a sudden, unexpected death, which is kind of can make you jump or just kind of surprise you. Or we think it's going to be one thing and then it's another, the camera lingering maybe on a sharp object or a flammable material. But as we know in this film, death loves his job, or, assuming death is a he, it's not the sharp object that kills, it's the thing that does the thing that triggers the other thing that the person trips over, so to speak. I was laughing out loud at these scenes. They are just so funny about misdirecting you or taking things in some hilarious, gory, gruesome, blood-spattered direction. I don't want to tell you any of them. I'm being really careful not to spoil them for you here. But piercings, pennies, and backyard barbecues, this film really shines in these scenes. They're incredibly creative and they pay off so well. This is what we come for when we come to a Final Destination film, and the film delivers. Some final notes. I really like the soundtrack to this film. There are times when it really adds to the tension well. And then the songs chosen, like the popular songs that are chosen, there's sometimes small nods to things happening on screen or the series as a whole. I don't know. I just thought they were really well chosen. They added a kind of vibe. Yeah, the film also has a few little nods to previous films in the series, but you'd have to know the films to see them, and I think this was really smart. Sometimes these little callbacks are so annoying and so pandering and heavy-handed, and in this film, they feel like small payoffs or quiet references. They're not loud, they're not obnoxious, they're just little touches that enrich the film, but don't overpower it, don't kind of slow down anything, you know. It's not fan service. I just thought it was done in a really classy way. So I'm really happy that this series or franchise is back. I had a lot of fun seeing this film, and I recommend it as a horror film if you're into that, or a new entry in the series if you're a fan of the series. It's not a shameless cash in. It's an entertaining horror film in its own right. And I think fans will be happy with the level of humor, the sort of tone that they chose. It's funny, but it's also got respect for the films as a whole, as a body of work. And I think horror fans will appreciate the crafting of the death scenes and the sort of level of gore, the excellent pacing. So yeah, this one is out in cinemas on May 15th, as I mentioned above. And just a quick thank you again to Vancouver Horror Show and Warner Brothers Canada for inviting me to the screening. Of course, all opinions are my own. Just because I got a screening, it would not change my opinion of the film. But yeah, are you a fan of this series? Are you excited to see this film? Let me know in the comments. If you want to tell me your favorite death scene, that would be okay with me, or your favorite entry in the franchise. Yeah, I look forward to seeing what you guys think of this film when it comes out soon as well. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I will catch you guys in the comments. And yeah, please subscribe if you feel like you want to join me for more movie reviews. Bye for now.